The DC Cinematic Universe hasn't gotten off to the best start yet. However, there is a solution, and it's easier than you might think. Hey movie fans, so as you know, I'm a huge DC Comics fan, but I'm not naive. The DC Cinematic Universe really has not gotten off to the best foot. At worst, it's at best, it's The critics, they really don't like them so far, but to me, they're not as bad as everyone makes them out to be, but they're not as good as they should be. You know what I'm saying? So, how does DCEU fix that? Is it complete reboot, recasting? Do we need to do this, that, and other thing? The solution is actually really, really simple, and all the pieces for this solution are already existing in the DC Cinematic Universe. So, one-word solution, and those that have read the comics know where I'm coming from. Flashpoint. Now go with me here. Flashpoint is an event in the DC Comics world that Barry Allen, the Flash, goes back in time to prevent his mother's murder. Doing so completely alters the timeline and completely changes the universe going forward. Now this, if done properly, can be the one thing that saves DC. Now would require a lot of smaller things, but it's the one major move that actually logically makes sense why DC would make some changes going forward. Now, the DC universe as a whole right now, it isn't one major problem, it's a lot of smaller individual problems in my mind. The only major problem being Zack Snyder, but I think he's going after Justice League, and that would be a perfect opportunity to have a Flashpoint is after the events of Justice League, something with the Flash. So what would a Flashpoint incident look like in this DC Cinematic Universe? You could have the Flash go back in time to try and fix something, maybe something that happens in the Justice League, or like in the comics, trying to prevent his mother's murder. Now, if you did that, it would be almost like a reset button, except you wouldn't have to start from scratch. You could pick the pieces that you like or that work, and then do away with the ones that don't. So, Zack Snyder's a bit controversial in both his filmmaking style and as well as the films that he makes. Man of Steel, I personally loved. Batman v Superman, not so much. In Justice League, the more I see, the more I'm very much on the fence of whether or not I'm actually going to like it. But I get where the guy is coming from. He has a very specific vision, and I get that there needs to be a certain balance of studio as well as Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder needs to be reined in at times, but other times the studios need to just let him express his vision and not cut out a half an hour of his movie. That probably actually would have helped. Like Batman v Superman, the extended cut was a lot better. So now that Zack Snyder is more than likely out of the picture and his doom and gloom situation with all of his movies, you can give a logical reason as to why the universe looks different now that it's this new timeline thanks to the Flashpoint Incident. Whenever you want that to take place, you can have a whole bunch of different changes and logically say it's due to that, not because of that, that, and the other thing, which logically it would be studio executives want a soft reboot, but that'd be expensive and they've already started stuff. So what you could do is just say, this is here because of the Flashpoint, or that's here because of the Flashpoint. Like, there's rumor that Ben Affleck will be done as Batman after Justice League due to just ongoing pressure from the media and from comic book fans of, where's Batman, where's Batman? That's why he stepped away from directing and writing the Batman movie, and now more likely seems like he's stepping away as starring as Batman altogether. And a combination of that and some of his personal life, which if he wants to step away and get his life straightened, more power to you. You were a great Batman, but your personal life comes first. If they wanted to recast Batman, it would make sense if they did a Flashpoint, because then, yes, the timeline has been changed. It's still Bruce Wayne, but it would logically explain why there's a recasting. Or take, for example, what happened with the Superman universe. There's a Man of Steel 2 on the horizon with Matthew Vaughn tapped to direct. Matthew Vaughn has a very distinct style that's separate from Zack Snyder's. It would probably be brighter, more optimistic, more like a Superman movie, hopefully. This could also be explained by a Flashpoint event of, this is how it was before the event. Now that Barry Allen has gone all back to the future on us and changed the timeline, that's why this looks and feels different. I liked Superman. I thought he was great. but I wanted more of the traditional aspects of Superman. More so than anything else, the Flashpoint event, if they do it correctly, would be a reset button, but not completely starting from scratch. DC could sit down in a room with their creative directors and Jeff Johns, who's one of the ones spearheading the whole division, as he's been with DC Comics for a while, and can more or less pick and choose the pieces that have been working, or just scrap the ones that aren't. I'll say this, you could even keep Jesse Eisenberg and Jared Leto as Lex Luthor and Joker. Now hear me out, but change up how they actually act. Give them a different form of direction, because I don't think inherently their casting was a bad thing. It's how they were told to portray those characters. They were a bit out of left field for both of them, but the casting was not the problem. So if you do this whole Flashpoint event, you could say, okay, this is how we want you to act in this new universe. You're still your same characters, but portray them in a different way. You wouldn't have to start from scratch all over again, and then you could just kind of explain why this is different or that's different. It would, and the only one that would know anything about it would be the Flash. And maybe, just maybe, that's why this whole Flash movie has been going through so much struggle, is that's maybe what they're planning, is a Flashpoint event to kind of reset the universe. And that's why so many directors and writers have come and gone, because it's a big task to try and redo this one big event, or try and redo this universe. It's a big undertaking, but if you do it correctly, that can get you back on track. And I'll go out and say this, if you do this and have all these big movies planned for the DC Universe of Nightwing, Birds of Prey, whoever else, they don't need to be leading to something. The Marvel Universe is always leading to the next Avengers movie, and ultimately leading to Infinity War. You can make yourself different by having individual stories that kind of still connect in the basic universe, but they don't need to lead up to, say, a Darkseid or lead up to a Brainiac. It could just be a world. You don't need to necessarily build to something. Yeah, you could still kind of build certain story arcs, like a Batman trilogy, or even the Justice League will be leading up to a Darkseid, but the whole universe doesn't need to revolve around one specific character arc or story arc like Infinity Wars. But overall, more than anything else, I hope a Flashpoint event comes so that we can pick and choose the pieces that are working and the pieces that aren't, while not completely resetting the universe, but it gives us a chance to give the characters some character. So far, a lot of the portrayals in the DC Cinematic Universe, except for a handful, have been really bland and just shallow counterparts of the comic book characters that we all know and love. That's why we want to see them on the big screen, is because we like their representations that we grew up with, seeing the animated stuff or reading the comics. So just this Flashpoint could give us a reason as to, okay, what we've done so far is not working. Let's reset things, reevaluate, not restart completely, but figure out what's going wrong and try it again, and give some depth and personality, and not necessarily fun, but more likability to our universe. Now, it's a big undertaking, and frankly, you can only get away with it once. But you don't have to reboot the universe to make the DC Cinematic Universe work. Just try. Give Flashpoint a chance, but know ahead of time, this is what we're going to work on, this is what we're going to fix, this is what's going to be altered in the timeline. Yeah, we all make fun of these Barry screwed up the timeline jokes. So why not use it to your advantage? You have probably one of the most powerful guys in terms of fixing your universe. Let it happen. Make it happen. Flashpoint can save the DC Cinematic Universe if they choose to go that route. What would you guys think of my theory of how the DC Universe can be saved? Am I completely out of my mind? Will DC actually pull it off? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel, or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Uncharted Media. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals.